was hyped up to be, and it lived up. Kansas City against Baltimore. There's no takeaway from Kansas City in this game. Kansas City is exactly who we think they are. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. You're wrong if you say anything else at this point.
Yep.
Like you can say you'd rather have Brady in a particular moment, maybe down a touchdown, needing to drive down. But I think you're insane if you would say at the start of any game who you could pick. If you're starting a game 0-0 who you want, it's Patrick Mahomes every day of the week and twice on Sundays if you're unbiased, and he's a freak. Their offense is unbelievable. We don't need to say more. The takeaway from this game is Lamar Jackson is a real player, and the Ravens are going to be a force to be reckoned with. I kind of talked about it a little bit earlier with the Bills and how they're building their team around their mobile quarterback who struggles a little bit with accuracy. Same thing in Baltimore. They're building an offense around him that suits him, and I think we finally saw them play against a real team, and Lamar Jackson was a real player this week.
Yeah.
Do you think my question for you, Paul, is are the Ravens the third best team in the AFC?
Yeah, I was about to mention how good I thought Baltimore was, considering this is Lamar Jackson's second loss. Both losses have come against Kansas City in Arrowhead. That's saying something. First off,
Yeah,
I think the Ravens are a legit team. I think they showed in the first 2 weeks that they can throw the ball. Lamar Jackson, heavy dose of running the ball this game, but he still did throw the ball. It wasn't great, but he showed that he can be a legit quarterback. I think they really did show, like you asked. They're kind of taking the spot for the number 3 team in the division, and I think that's huge for them. I mean,
yeah, I think
that's you never know what happens come playoff time. The draw and talk with like teams not knowing how to play Lamar Jackson. I'd be very excited to see this team later in the year.
I think coming to the year, the Chargers were pretty firmly entrenched in third in the conference. And with what we've seen early in the season, I don't know how you could not have the Ravens right there at third. I don't think we've seen another team, especially with how they went toe-to-toe with Kansas City. I mean, you saw in Mahomes' reaction when they got that first down to clinch the game. That was a real game for the Chiefs. When Mahomes was getting a first down against the Raiders, they didn't care. When they got a first down against the Ravens to seal that game, there was a real sign of emotion on his face. And you could really tell that maybe the best team in the league. Like we keep talking about the Patriots. I don't know how the Chiefs aren't as good as the Patriots, if not better.
The Chiefs is the best team in the league. That's Mike.
Yeah, it's one or the other. But when you see the respect they have for the Ravens, I think we can all learn a little bit on what to think of Lamar and the Ravens. Moving on to, I don't even think we need to talk about this game for more than a minute, because if you want to know what happened in this game, just go listen to our preview, because we told you exactly what was going to happen in this game.
2 weeks in a row doing that on a game.
This game, I don't think we could have done a better job of picking it. And the game we're talking about is the Minnesota Vikings blowing out the Raiders. Kirk Cousins is maybe the easiest player in the NFL to tell you how he's going to play week by week, and it literally just depends on if the team is good or not, which is why the Vikings will never be bad with him, but also why they're never going to be that good with him, because he can't beat anyone good. But the problem is they're going to win 8 or 9 games just because the nature of an NFL schedule, you play 8 or 9 bad teams or like mediocre to bad teams. It's just like the Falcons aren't a bad team, but they're not a good team. They're not a great team, and Kirk's just not going to beat those teams, especially on prime time. So, the Vikings, I mean, what more can you say? They look really good. They might have the best roster in the league outside of quarterback. If you counted 1 to 52 outside of the quarterback, I mean, I don't know who's better than the Vikings. Dalvin Cook's a star. I mean, Paul, we don't even talk about the Vikings. This will be one of the few games we talk about the team that got slapped. What's your takeaway for the Raiders? Is there one?
Yeah, don't have a takeaway for the Raiders. The only thing I took away from watching this game is Dalvin Cook is unreal. Like I've said 3 weeks in a row now. The Vikings have playmakers on the outside, and the Raiders just couldn't keep up with it. I think this is looking like the Raiders are going to get a high draft pick this year. So, Vegas, be ready for that. But from that, yeah, I don't have much to take away. Just the Raiders are going to be a mediocre team.
Next game, we don't have to talk about long, other than to say the Jets pulled off a gross backdoor cover.
Yep.
In this game, there's no way they should have only lost by 16, but hey, that's the NFL and how it works, and that's why those 20-point spreads are so scary. I mean, the Patriots are, if they're not the best team in the NFL, then it's disrespectful to say they're the third best team in the NFL. Like, they're one or two. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
Yeah. And, yeah, I don't know what more to say about them. They're really good. The only reason they got scored on was because Brady came out of the game, to be honest here.
Yeah.
The takeaway, I guess, is that the Jets are just, they don't have enough depth yet to withstand the amount of injuries and just what has gone wrong so far this year. And if you're a Jets fan, I know it sucks, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's just how it goes in a rebuild. Once you lose a couple of your key players, you're in trouble. The defense, I will say, disappointed me. I don't think they put in the effort that they should have this week, but I mean, it's tough when you're rolling out a guy who was on a practice squad last week at quarterback. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel bad for the Jets. That's my takeaway from this game. It sucks for them in the position that they are in. I mean, they came up against a good Patriots team at the end of the day. The Patriots might be one of the best teams in the league, like you said. Tom Brady will always be good. The only reason they didn't put up 50 was because they took him out of the game. So
I think
that's good for the Jets at least.
I think the takeaway from the Jets so far this season is they're going to have a top 5 pick or top 5 to 10 pick, and they're going to get one of the sweet receivers, and they're going to be really good next year.
Yeah, and a good tip for the Patriots takeaway from the game is don't bet Patriots when they're favored by 2+ touchdowns because they're going to take Brady out of the game, and then you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, they just let up. They're human beings. Like, what can you say? Next game, maybe the shocker of the week, the final morning game. Detroit back-to-back weeks plays shocker, and I mean, Paul, this game we can dive into this game in depth because there's a lot to do with it. But I think the first question is most podcasts, they would talk about the Eagles and how disappointing the Eagles have been. But I think what makes us different is we look at a fan perspective. So Paul, are the Lions actually good? Because
yeah, no, I think
like that's what nobody's talking about right now. Everyone's saying the Eagles suck and the Chargers suck. And wait, like the Eagles and maybe the Lions are just like actually really secretly decent.
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, they're undefeated, kind of. They have a tie, so they're undefeated. They've looked decent. I've been surprised watching them. Nothing pops off the screen, but it's like, okay, this is just a decent football team all around. There's not many holes. I think they'll win enough games to be fighting for a wild card spot at the end of the day. Maybe even winning the division would be tough, but like I've seen crazier things. So
we made a lot of fun. Everyone made a lot of fun of Matt Patricia for trying to build the culture guy, and we got to tear it down, and we got to do whatever. We got to get rid of all the locker room cancers. You saw all their veterans get shipped out, and they got made fun of a lot. And I think we're seeing that culture really matters in the NFL right now in Detroit. Like, I think if that's the one takeaway, it's that culture matters in the league. And Patricia, I'm still not 100% convinced he's a good coach with some of the mistakes he makes regularly with clock management, timeouts, the play calls his staff makes. I mean, they're interesting to say the least at times, but at the end of the day, this team's 2-0-1, and I think maybe the forgotten result in the NFL that no one's talking about is the fact that they tied the Cardinals when they shouldn't have, and they should be 3-0 right now, which could really come back to bite them later when the schedule. I mean, I would say ramps up, but they would just beat two teams that were in the second round of the playoffs last year. So, but yeah, and then for the Eagles, I don't know what the takeaway on is on. We kind of talked about this with the Jets. There's only so many injuries an NFL team can take.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the nature of only having so many good players, and they're just getting decimated. I mean, their receivers can't catch. Like, I literally think Carson Wentz is playing well. It's so weird. You watch them play, and it's just like you can tell their receivers are just not on the same page with him, and it's because they're rookies or young guys, and they're just not ready. Nelson Aguilar is like a 50-50 on if he's going to catch the ball or not. It doesn't even matter where it hits him. Like, it's I have never seen a good NFL team or an above average, even an above average NFL team where the ball hits one of their receivers' hands, and I have no idea if they're catching.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They lead the league in egregious drops. Like,
yeah.
They are 100% in first place on drops where a guy in the stands 3 beers deep is going, there's no way that I could have caught that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like some of the plays they've had so far. I mean, did you see that slant over the middle in the red zone? I think it was to Aguilar. It literally it went straight through his hands.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh.
He's had a couple of those.
I mean,
as mentioned in the news interview with the guy catching babies. You saw that? That was hilarious.
I think they have a great roster. The question is, will they still have a chance to make a run? Because as we talked about earlier with the Titans-Falcons game coming up this week, 1-3 is a huge issue, especially when there's a very good chance the Cowboys go 4-0. 1-3, 4-0, basically, you're not winning the division with that kind of lead.
Yeah.
And so, will the Eagles be able to keep their record reasonable so that by the time they're healthy, they can actually finally do what I think a lot of us, including myself, who had them making the Super Bowl, saw for them this season? Because there's no reason a team as talented as them should miss the playoffs unless they just get crucified by injuries. But that's looking like a possibility right now with how it's going. But
yeah, I have no idea why, but I've never been high on the Eagles. Well, at least this year. I am not super high on Carson Wentz ever since his ACL injury. I think he's played a bit scared, which I'd probably do the same thing. So nothing against him, but no, I kind of doubt the Eagles at this point a little bit, especially with the Dallas Cowboys running away with the division. That's a tough go for them.
Cowboys have been sweet so far.
Yeah, they're looking unbelievable. So, I don't think they win the division. I think there's almost no chance of that. I mean, I think Dallas was going to make the playoffs last year, and then they turned it on in the second half of the year. So, they've got time. Deshaun Jackson's going to be coming back soon. I think that was the biggest kind of punch to the gut for them.
Yeah.
Their deep threat going kind of ruined their offense a bit. So I'm excited to see when he comes back, but it'll be interesting.
Deshaun going out hurt a lot, and Alshon going out hurt them a lot too. I mean, Alshon is just such a huge player for them, especially down in the red zone. the jump balls. He can go and get, like, it sounds cliche, but the basketball type plays he makes, he's a really good player. And they've really missed him. The good news is he's expected to be back this week against the Packers, which we'll get to that game a little bit later.
Yep.
But for now, we're going to transition to the afternoon games.